Echo remembered the argument perfectly. Every word, every moment, the exact look on their face when they said it. But somehow, by the end of the conversation, Echo was the one apologizing and couldn't explain why. That's where this story begins. Not with a dramatic fight, not with an obvious lie, with something quieter, something that takes months, sometimes years, to even have a name for. What gaslighting does to your brain is not just psychological, it is neurological. It rewires you. And the terrifying part is that it happens so gradually you don't notice until the damage is already done. So what exactly is happening inside your brain when someone gaslights you? Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone causes you to question your own memory, perception, and sanity. The term comes from a 1944 film called Gaslight, where a husband manipulates his wife into believing she is losing her mind by dimming the gas lights in their home and denying that anything has changed. The name stuck because the pattern it describes is ancient. But here's what the film didn't show you. What happens inside the brain? Your brain is built to trust the people closest to you. This is not a flaw. It is an evolutionary feature. When someone we love tells us something is true, our nervous system is wired to lower its defenses. Trust is the brain's way of conserving energy. A gaslighter exploits this. Every time they deny something you experienced, your brain does something remarkable and devastating. It enters a state of conflict. Two competing signals fire at once. Your memory says this happened, their voice says it didn't. And in that moment, your brain has to choose a side. And if it chooses wrong often enough, the effects last long after the relationship ends. Let's go deeper. Dr. Robin Stern, a psychotherapist and co-founder of the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence, identified 3 stages that gaslighting victims move through: disbelief, defense, and depression. You begin by noticing something is off. You defend yourself. Then, if it continues long enough, you stop defending. You go quiet. Not because you've accepted the truth, but because your brain has learned that fighting back only makes things worse. This is stage 1, the self-doubt loop. The self-doubt loop is the first thing gaslighting builds inside your mind. It starts small, a misremembered date, a tone of voice they swear you imagined, an overreaction they say never happened. Each instance seems minor on its own, but cumulatively, they erode something foundational, your trust in your own perception. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance. That's the mental discomfort your brain feels when it holds 2 contradictory beliefs at the same time. You know what you experienced, but someone you trust is telling you it wasn't real. The brain cannot hold both as true, so it searches for resolution. And resolution often looks like surrender. The second thing gaslighting does is attack your memory. Memory is not a recording device. This is something neuroscientists have known for decades. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, one of the world's leading memory researchers, demonstrated through her landmark false memory studies that human memory is reconstructive, meaning every time you recall a memory, you are rebuilding it, not replaying it. And in that rebuilding process, outside information can be inserted. A gaslighter knows this, consciously or not. When they say you're remembering it wrong often enough, they begin to insert their version into your reconstruction. You start to second-guess events you were once certain of. Not because you're weak, not because you're dramatic, but because your brain, under sustained pressure, begins to adopt the version it hears most often. This is memory contamination, and it is real, and it is deeply disorienting. The third effect happens in the body. Chronic gaslighting activates the brain's threat response system. Your amygdala, the almond-shaped structure deep in your brain that processes danger, stays on high alert. Your cortisol levels rise. Your nervous system shifts into a persistent, low-grade survival mode. You are technically safe, but your body doesn't know that. This is the neurological fingerprint of C-PTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Unlike single-incident trauma, C-PTSD develops through repeated, prolonged exposure to emotional manipulation. Symptoms include hypervigilance, always scanning for what's wrong, emotional flashbacks, difficulty trusting your own perceptions, and chronic shame. Researchers Judith Herman and Pete Walker have both written extensively on how relational trauma like gaslighting can produce the same neurological imprints as combat exposure without a single physical wound. The fourth thing gaslighting does is isolate you from yourself. This is the most insidious stage because by this point, the external gaslighter no longer has to do much work. You have internalized their voice. You question yourself before they get the chance. You pre-explain. You over-apologize. You rehearse conversations in your head, anticipating where they'll tell you you're wrong. Your inner critic starts to sound exactly like them. Psychologists call this introjection, the unconscious adoption of another person's beliefs, attitudes, and criticisms as your own. You don't just lose confidence. You lose the ability to distinguish your own thoughts from the version of yourself they constructed. The fifth effect is the hardest to name. You start to feel like you are disappearing. Not dramatically, quietly. You stop bringing things up because what's the point? You stop trusting your emotional responses because they've been wrong so many times. You become a smaller, more careful, more apologetic version of the person you were before. And the most painful part? You often can't even point to a single reason why. So what do you do now? How do you begin to reverse what gaslighting has done to your brain? Step 1 is documentation. Start writing things down, not for anyone else, for yourself. The moment something happens, record it. The date, the words, your emotional response. Memory is vulnerable to manipulation in real time, but a written record is not. This is not paranoia. This is protection. Step 2 is reality testing with safe people. Gaslighting thrives in isolation. It needs you to have no external reference point. Rebuilding trust in your perception starts by sharing your experiences with people outside the dynamic. A therapist, a trusted friend, anyone who offers a grounded, consistent reflection of reality back to you. Not to validate that you're right, but to remind you that your perceptions are worth examining. Step 3 is understanding that healing your brain takes time. The hypervigilance, the self-doubt, the internal critic that sounds like them. These don't disappear the moment you leave. Neuroplasticity is real. Your brain can rebuild, but it requires repetition of new, safe experiences. It requires learning slowly that your version of events is allowed to exist. You are not broken. You were manipulated by someone who knew exactly which part of you to target. Your trust. And if this is still happening to you right now, if there is someone in your life who consistently makes you feel like reality is unstable, here's what you need to hear. The confusion you feel is not a flaw in you. It is evidence of what is being done to you. In the next video, Echo goes deeper into the relationship between gaslighting and trauma bonding, and why some people find it nearly impossible to leave even after they understand exactly what's happening to them. If you've ever wondered why knowing the truth doesn't automatically set you free, that one is for you.